welcome to this episode of Do-It-Yourself Girlfriend, where we're on phase 2 of updating my son's bedroom. I'm super excited about today because it's demo day! Woo!
And today we are going to go in the closet and tear everything down, and then we will reinstall new shelves and 2 new coat racks.
So, let's get started!
This is what the closet currently looks like, and the first thing we need to do is get everything out. Okay, now that everything's out of the closet, it's time to start tearing things down. We'll start by removing anything extra from the walls and then go around the creases of the shelves with a box cutter to make sure that any extra paint is removed from the cracks. Now we're going to use a pry bar to remove the shelves. So you'll want to wedge the pry bar in the cracks, and if you have a little trouble, you can hit it with a rubber mallet and then lift up to completely remove the shelf. We'll also be using the pry bar to remove the support pieces and the wood pieces that are attached to the wall. And once again, use a rubber mallet for extra help.
Woo! That was a lot of work, but it sure was a lot of fun. My favorite part of demo day is you get to use tools like this. And you know, anytime you have to wear safety goggles, you're in for a lot of fun. What's your favorite part?
My favorite part is being able to tear everything down and not worry about messing anything up.
True.
What's up next?
Up next, we're going to prepare the walls for painting and then do a fresh coat of paint. Some of the paint supplies that you're going to need is a drop cloth to protect the carpet, the paint of your choice. I'm going to use an alabaster white, which is a very soft white, a paint stick, a paint can opener, paint tray, roll brushes. I'm using 2 kinds. One is a small one to get in tight places, and then a regular size on the regular wall. Some paint gloves to protect your nails, a paint brush, and this one is on the end, it's angled to help me get into the tight places as well as like the cracks in the wall. Then we need a paint cup, and I always have 2 rags. One is dry and one is wet to help with any spills, but I also like to paint in my bare feet. That way, if I step on paint or anything like that, I know it instantly and I can wipe my feet off before getting on the carpet. So let's get started. Okay, now that we've gotten down all the shelves, dig out the stuffing that you just put in there. So just lightly brush over it. And you'll see that it's still a little bit rough, but don't worry about that because later on we're going to sand it down really good and it's going to feel just like the wall. However, you don't want to leave globs on there because that's going to be really hard to get off. So now that you know how to do it, here we go.
Now that the walls are all painted, we're going to work on removing the trim. We'll start by going over the edge of the trim with a blade to make sure we get all of the excess paint off. Then I'm going to come in with a small pry bar and a rubber mallet to get it started. And then we can use the big pry bar to completely remove the trim. Now it's time to come up with our design plan. So we'll start by making a list of all of the requirements that the closet absolutely has to have. This closet is being designed for a 19-year-old college student who has a ton of clothes and shoes. So we'll need shelf space for at least 25 pairs of shoes and 3 pairs of soccer cleats, at least 60 inches of hanger space. We'll also need some hooks for coats and hats, and a shelf above for upper storage space, and then a place for a laundry basket. Now that we know what all we need, we'll start by looking for ideas and inspiration on Pinterest, and then we'll sketch it all out on paper. Now we're going to go to Home Depot and pick up the supplies that we need. For this project, we are going to need 5 of these white melamine shelving boards, and we're going to use teamwork and all of our muscles to get these boards on the cart. We're also going to pick up one of the 3-foot boards, and this one's not as heavy, so it's more of a one-woman job. We'll also need some corner braces, a couple packs of these angle shelf supports, 2.5-inch cabinet screws, and 2 of these heavy-duty pull sockets for the clothing rods. And before we go check out, we're going to have them cut the wood we'll be using for our shelves here at Home Depot, since all these pieces will be the same size, and this will leave a little less work for us. Alright, now we're back, and we'll start by prepping the 2 boards that will be supporting our shelves. We're going to use our drill to create holes for the shelf supports. And I'm going to wrap a piece of tape around the drill bit to make sure that we only drill as deep as we need to. We're going to place these shelf supports 3 inches away from the edge and 2 inches apart all the way down. And we're installing these so that these shelves will be adjustable, so if you have a taller pair of shoes, you can move them up or down as needed. So here we go. Now we're going to work on installing 2 permanent shelves. We will attach this first one to the 3rd notch here, which is 6 inches from the bottom and 3 inches from the edge. So we'll make our mark 3 inches from the edge on both sides of the shelf. Now we need to create our 4 pilot holes for those marks we just made on the shelf. And we also need pilot holes on the 6-inch mark on both sides of both of our support boards. We'll install the 2nd permanent shelf in the middle of the board following these same steps. We made our way back upstairs, and now we are going to secure the permanent shelves with the cabinet screws. Now, before we move this piece into the closet, we are going to pull back the carpet and create a slit so that our board can sit evenly on the floor and we won't have to worry about it being wobbly at all. We're going to use a couple nails to secure this board to the wall, just to make sure it's not going anywhere. Since we can't attach the other board directly to the wall, we're going to use one of our corner braces to secure it. Now we need measurements for our support pieces. We would like an extra shelf on the bottom here under the clothes, so we will need to create measurements for 2 support pieces, one on each side, so that our shelf has something to rest on top of. We also need to make our measurements for the 2 pieces that are going to be supporting our 2 clothing rods, and after that we can head to the shop to cut all of our pieces. Now we will secure the 2 pieces that are going to be supporting the bottom shelf. And the main thing we want to make sure of here is that these 2 pieces are sitting at the same height so that our shelf will sit flat and even on top. Now we are going to attach the clothing rod pieces, and make sure that these support pieces are going into a stud, otherwise the heavy clothing could pull it down. Now we are going to secure the support piece for the top storage shelf to the wall. And now that our shelf is in place, we are going to secure it with screws attaching the shelf to the wood pieces below so that the shelf will not move anywhere. And we made a little scratch on the wall in this process, but that's okay because we can just touch it up with paint and it takes 2 seconds. Earlier we removed the trim from the wall, but now we are going to reuse it. All we have to do is measure the space and then cut the trim down to its new size, and then we'll use a hammer and finish nails to attach the trim back to the wall. Now that we reinstalled the trim, we can put our bottom shelf into place. And then we'll pop our shelf supports into place, and all we need to do after that is add our shelves. And finally, this is our finished model. We're so happy with it, and now we just need to put all the stuff back in.
That was a little bit more complicated than I had thought.
Yes, it was, but in the end, we got all the shelves we needed to fit all these shoes. We have hooks for coats, hats, belts, and ties, and 2 clothes racks.
It took us a couple more days than I had anticipated, but in the end, it was well worth it. Thanks for watching.